Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. Today, we're going to be going over my updated Tower 2.1 guide for floors 1 through 30 and 30EX. Now that we have Tower returning and we have up to floor 40, it would be way too long to make a video covering every single floor. So I decided that I would do a separate video going through all of the old floors in case there's new players out there who want to climb the ranks and figure out what they're going to be up against. And then tomorrow I'll be releasing a separate video focusing on floor 31 through 40 and 40EX. Of course, we will release the full guides in the description down below as well. So make sure you're checking those out and make sure you're using them if you need any help clearing tower. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right on in here. For those of you who haven't run Tower before, basically the first 10 floors are pretty easy. And you can see I have auto put as on. You don't really need to do anything. Floor 30 can be just like a little annoying, but you're gonna be able to clear it pretty easily. Sorry, floor 5, level 30. Now, when you do get up to floor 10 is when things do tend to change just a little bit. Now, if you are running lower rarity units, you are going to start running into issues where they could potentially die. I definitely think floor 10 is where you should be turning the auto button off. You should be making sure your units have movement abilities, you have the right team set, and you should just go in there. And anybody, reasonably decent can do this. The enemies are only level 50. So go in there, start using some of your abilities and let's push our way up some more. From here on out, we will be going over almost every floor, starting at about floor 15. Floor 11, 12, 13, and 14 are going to be pretty easy. For floor 11, you're going to want to watch out for the high evasion enemies. So what's really special about that is you're going to want to bring an accuracy up card. Floor 13 is going to have high enemy accuracy. I would definitely manual it for safety, and the enemies that you're going to be going up against are going to be Lancers. So they're going to have access to the ability called Nighthawk, which is a very high range spear attack. Even though they're level 45, if multiple of those Lancers start landing Nighthawk on your units, the chain damage is going to multiply and you are going to find yourself in trouble. So definitely make sure you're planning to blitz it out. Floor 13 is definitely where things arguably start to get a little bit more serious. Floor 14, definitely have movement passives. Beware of range height abilities here. And Dario is going to be really good for you. So this is going to be, floor 14 is kind of encountering the same situation where the enemies can chain on you. They're all kind of earth element mages. So you really want like Dario, who's really going to be a magic tank, or if you have any units with magic resistance. Nowadays, we do have access to things like the Fenrir VC, which has magic resistance on it. And we also have access to other espers with magic resistance on it. Build for that should be pretty easy for you. Floor 15 is probably where you will lose your first character. You're going to be going up against 8 different red mages, and all of these red mages have access to jamming thrust, which if you aren't familiar is a high range height 2 attack. So what that means is that it can, hit you from really far away, and it can hit you if you're 2 slots above them or 2 slots below them. So if you don't have a way to versatilely hit these opponents, you're going to find yourself in a situation where they're going to be jamming thrusting the shit out of you, and there's going to be nothing you can do about it. So definitely make sure you bring maybe a ranged unit or a calculator. If you do put a calculator or ranger in slot number 3, you can take out a big chunk of the red mages at the spawn, which will definitely help you out. If you can't kill a majority of them, definitely move back. A lot of them, as you can see in the small image down here, are up on this little ledge up here. So if you fall back, they're going to have to kind of split up and funnel their way. They can't just jump down this ledge to get you. So if you want to take it slow, if you kind of want to take them one at a time, you can do that. Just be aware that there are red mages on each side here, and so they will kind of collapse in and surround you. So just make sure you're focusing on the edges. We do have a new difficulty rating system from floor 15 on. I gave this one two-headed digs. It's kind of difficult, but it's not going to be really a huge deal for you. Floor 16 is a gimmick floor, and you're going to encounter gimmick floors as we do explore different parts of tower. The gimmick for floor 16 is that you need to be using area of effect attacks. That's going to be attacks like Firaga, you can see right here. Area of attacks would be attacks that take up more than one panel. These units have really high single target resistance, and that's going to be kind of the gimmick here. One other thing to note is that the slimes will be casting a lot of poison on your units, so you might want to bring Esuna, might want to bring some type of poison resistance. Something to think about. This is a 1-2-headed digs difficulty. Floor 17, level 55, bring earth elemental units, but you don't have to. And one really great thing about floor 17, and you're going to see this on a couple floors, is that you can trigger half of the group first. So if you don't move your units very far from the initial spawn, you're only going to have 4 enemies aggro you. You can take them out, and then you can move forward and aggro the additional 4 samurais. Sorry. So overall, floor 17, pretty easy. Just break it down, go easy. It's going to be a piece of cake. Floor 18, the big thing to remember on floor 18, you bring lightning, you bring slash resist, missile resist. Just run up the stairs and kill the archers first. The paladins and Tyrell, or sorry, the lancers, Tyrell, and the melee knights down at the bottom, they take a long time to get to you. Just use the stairs as a choke point. You'll be able to beat them down pretty easily. I did put the difficulty at 2-headed digs though, because you can get, if you are out of position, you can get kind of sandwiched pretty hard, and the next thing you know, you could just find yourself in a situation where you're gonna lose a unit or two. Floor 19, level 60. This is one of the easier floors. It's basically just a shit ton of paladins. That's pretty much all it is 10 fire elemental paladins that will all use Sentinel, that all use the stun blade, blade bash, bring magic, bring, you know, spirit attacks. It's not going to be, they're not going to deal a lot of damage. They're going to be more obnoxious than anything. This is a really obnoxious floor. This is a floor that's designed to take your time up. So I think if you're looking to run like a really good unit on this floor, you might run Severo. He would be really good. Kind of like a strong water mage that is not going to be on your main water line formation. Other than that, I mean, you probably don't even need a specialized team to clear this. Should be relatively easy. Ildzira would probably destroy this entire floor, I imagine, as well, if you are running Ildzira. Floor 20. This is where the difficulty really starts amping up. And you're gonna kind of see that I put in the notes here that this is a marathon floor. And that's because this is the floor that is really going to draw the battle out for a long time. Basically, what's going to happen is these dragoons down here are going to run up the ledge. These archers are going to push in from behind, and then you're going to be engaging all of these enemies at once while the archers are shooting at you. You're going to want to bring healing. If you're bringing slashing, bring slash resistance penetration and defense penetration. The best way to clear this is actually to bring counter element units. And it's designed for you to bring counter element units. So if you bring any other unit type, you need to have a plan to burn these units down, or you need to focus specifically on one unit at a time. Other than that, bring a healer, take it slow, and if you have to run again, make sure that you at least deal some damage. This is going to be rated a 3-2-headed digs difficulty. If you haven't noticed a trend yet, the floors 5, 10, 15, 20, they're all going to be just a little bit more difficult than the previous floors. So just know that if you're going into one of these floors, you may want to do a little bit of extra preparation. Floor 21. Floor 21 can be really difficult for you, or it can be really easy for you. I personally think that floor 21 is one of the easier floors because a lot of global players have the mentality of blitzing down the opponents and not running a marathon, right? So in floor 21, you want to kill your opponents as fast as possible. They're all relatively weak. You can use low modifier, high range attacks to kill them. However, if they get hits in on you, your units are going to die. Thankfully, a lot of global players play in the blitz fashion. So go in there, obliterate your opponents, stay out of range of Ruinstern. If you can, I would just take out as many of the soldiers as possible. And then as soon as Ruinstern is in range, take him out. Keynote here, regular Stern is a little bit more tanky on this map, and he can surprise you if you are entirely focused on Ruinstern. Another important note, single attack resistance here is going to be great, and just stack slash resistance. If you are a new player, you should have at least the Iron Giant VC. Put that on, it's going to be useful and it's really going to help you out. Floor 20 EX is going to be the first EX floor that we're going to talk about. There is a floor 10 EX. However, floor 10 EX is pretty easy and pretty much everybody should even be able to auto clear it. Floor 20 EX is going to have a 4 two-headed digs difficulty. The enemies are going to be level 80 and they're going to consist of behemoth, skeletons, elementals, and Malboros. The primary opponents you have to worry about though are going to be the Malboros and the behemoths. Now, of course, the Malboros are going to be your primary target. They do petrify and toad with bad breath. The behemoth also has an instant kill technique. This is important because the behemoths can instant kill your units, and if you're not expecting it, it can turn what looks like a clear into a loss. Now, the Malboros are weak to magic, and the behemoths are weak to shooting. If you counter the Malboros elements, if you're using jamming thrust, you can usually one-shot KO the Malboros. I would say in terms of threats, the Malboros are the biggest threat, and I would really look at your agility tuning in terms of the beginning of the fight, because the Malboros are kind of set to move in a specific formation, and you can actually start the fight by staying behind and luring in the first two Malboros. So that way you can at least handle 2/3 of the Malboros, which is one of the biggest threats, and you can take them out slowly. This is actually, when I was trying to clear this with my MR only team, this was one of the maps that took me a while to figure out, because not only are the Malboros dangerous, but what can happen if you trigger the second Malboro at the wrong time, you can suddenly, that Malboro, instead of waiting, is going to move and bad breath your entire team. So just be aware, like, if you think that other Malboro is going to move, make your move first, move in, jamming thrust them to hell, or send one unit forward and keep the rest of your units back so they don't all get bad breathed at the same time. The third Malboro way in the back, I would actually leave for right now, and then I would focus on the behemoths, elementals, skeletons. They're nothing. It's the behemoths and the Malboro that you're gonna want to worry about. Some important notes here, Gilgamesh, Uldoa, and Stern all have death immunity. So if you're looking for units that can tank that behemoth's instant death attack, Gilgamesh, Uldoa, and Stern, if you do run any of those units, are going to be very useful for that. If you are looking at going up against the Malboros and you're scared a bad breath might get off, running Eileen, Frederica, or Kane will stop your unit from dying, because Petrify is essentially the same as an instant death. If you're looking at units with toad immunity as well, because if they're not getting petrified, they're going to get toaded. Delita, Kilthay, Medina, and Ziza will all be very good for that. There is also multiple VCs that do offer status ailment resistances, so you might be able to give Kane, for example, Toad and Petrify immunity, making him an excellent choice potentially for fighting a Malboro if you need him to. Let's move on. Floor 22, I gave two-headed digs. You can see here it's going to be a light elemental floor, and you can see we're reaching that point where the composition of the teams is going to be so resistant, both elementally and physically, that you really have to have the counter element or the counter to what the units are strong against. This floor does have Ahriman, it does have elementals, and it does have mastery. This is one of the easiest floors because pretty much everybody has a dark slash unit that they can utilize here. Whether you just have Shadowlynx or Venera or Gafgarion, that's going to be absolutely fine. Important note here is you can make use of units like Sid as well, who can either lower defense or you can lower anything else. A lot of these fights were done before kind of these reductions and resistances came out in global. I think it's also important to note that, you know, a lot of these fights that you're seeing, you know, we now have Dwayne in global that can lower darkness resistance as well. If you have a strong team, you can probably make your strong team work. It's just going to be a little bit difficult. Floor 23, 1 two-headed digs difficulty. The only threat on this floor is Medina. It's essentially a box, is all this floor is. It's a box with 4 different box rooms. You move room to room. One room is a mage room. The other room is a paladin knight room. The paladin knight room, you literally just plant a unit in front of the door and block them. And then you just move in and start massacring all of the mages in the other chamber. It's not hard. Bring in your fire units if you have them. If you don't have fire units, it doesn't matter. This is one of the easiest floors out there. Take your physical units in and just start slaughtering black mages. This is gonna look like Final Fantasy IX all over again by the time you're done with this. Floor 24. This is notoriously known as the run ender for me. For those that don't know, I did try to do a MR only, no clear or no re-clear run. So basically an MR only run where I didn't reset my units. And this was the floor that did it in for me. Now, the turtles are not inherently the most difficult part here. It's the combination of Kilfe and Baelo. You're gonna wanna kill Baelo right away because Baelo does have access to charm your units. And then Kilfe, of course, is gonna come in and just start obliterating you. Now, if you are worried about the turtles, you might wanna take 1 or 2 out. They're pretty resistant to everything else. Wind magic is going to be your friend here, or any type of wind unit. Specifically, if you have Halloween Leela, being able to basically break open a way to escape is so important for your units, or you're going to be surrounded by turtles that can all AoE and all use immobilize, and the next thing you know, your entire team's going to be immobilized, and it's just going to be over. Sorry, just a second here, I did make a mistake on this floor. Baelo does not charm. You can charm Baelo. So if you do have Seal Heart, you can actually charm Baelo to fight for you. So sorry about that mistake there. Floor 25. This one is getting 4 two-headed digs because this floor is terrible. This floor has everything a global player hates. That is charm and confusion. So what I would do on this floor, I would focus down the Lamias immediately. If you have missile attacks, throw a missile attack in there because there are so many units that either don't have charm and confusion resistance. Like, it's very rare that they have both. So I would just run a entirely charm resistant team if possible. I have a list of all of the charm resistant units here in the lower right hand corner. A lot of them are units that people have and probably utilize, like Medina, for example, or Cecil. Some of them are limited time. Other ones are really popular units like Agrius and Dario, Ruin Stern. Run as many charm resistant units as you have. If you don't have any charm resistant units, try and find if you have any confusion resistance units. If you don't have any confusion resistance units, The best approach I could recommend here is to play defensively and move to one side of the map, picking off the Lamias. Again, the Lamias are going to be the number one focus. These are the enemies that charm. These are the enemies that confuse. All of the other enemies on this map are pretty much fodder. The probably most dangerous melee enemy is the wolf, and that's about it. So just be aware of charm and confusion. If you are a newer player and one of your units does get charmed, if you didn't know this, you can melee attack that unit and it will break their charm as well. Floor 26. This is one of the easier floors because there are lots of ice units and the units on this floor are really weak. Lorelei, it's going to be a lot of archers, a lot of spell blades, and some healers. Basically, the strategy I've seen pretty much everybody use, you just go to the right, you take out the healer, the archer, and Lorelei right here, plant your units on top of this little ridge here. You can see Gafgarion's right there in the right-hand picture. Just start killing things. You're gonna kill things so fast on this map. These enemies melt compared to what you have been fighting in previous stages. This stage compared to even just the last stage is honestly a joke. Now, compared to the stage floor 27, this one gets a three two-headed digs difficulty. This stage can be really difficult if you are not prepared for it. Probably the most important thing is that you do have some form of jump plus on your units and that you do have bind immunity on your units as well. That, or you are prepared to be bound and you have a plan to kill Frederica and Salir. Frederica and Salir are the two biggest threats on this map, and you have basically multiple slots where your units can spawn. Your units are basically going to be split up into 3 different groups, which makes them particularly vulnerable. Units like Ketone, units like Venera, units like Victoria, Dragoons, Ninjas, these are the units that are really going to shine on this map. It's not about elemental resistance as much as it is about, can you get a unit next to Salir, next to Frederica, and kill them before you get bound by the skeletons, because every single one of those skeletons is going to be binding you and it's going to drive you up a fucking wall. Now, they can drain HP as well, which is also going to be problematic. They can blind you as well, which is not going to be good. So just prepare for a lot of status ailments. If you're not confident that you can get up there and take them out, make sure you bring a healer, make sure you bring a tank, and I would take out as many of the skeletons and black mages as you can. And you might have to run this map twice, deal some damage, wait a day, refresh, and go in. But this map is going to be pretty brutal. Floor 28. Floor 28 is probably the hardest floor out of the entire first 30 floors of Tower, I would say. I would say floor 28 is the floor that is going to surprise a lot of people. You would think, people having access to Salir, Frederica, Sid, Ravi's, that having access to lightning units would just destroy this floor. That's not actually the case. The combination of Miranda with jamming thrust and the opponent Severo having flare in combination with zoos and elementals can really fuck your team up. Particularly when you consider that the way the map is set up, it's essentially a dip, right? So there's a dip in the center and then all of the units are out on the side. And what tends to happen is players they move down the stairs because they're like, yeah, I'm going to go attack the enemies. And then all of the enemies will converge on them and sort of nuke and chain the shit out of them. And it basically is like a death trap waiting to happen. I would approach this floor carefully. I would bring a healer. I would bring as much magic resistance as possible. And I would, if possible, skirt around the edge of the outside arena, taking pot shots, taking one off at a time. This is one of those maps where it was brutal. It was not fun. And you're going to think like, oh yeah, I have Sid. I can one-shot this water elemental, no problem. It's not going to happen, guys. That's not how it works. So just prepare yourself, because this floor is going to be a little crazy. Floor 29, compared to the previous floor, is going to be a breath of fresh air. Pretty much the only requirement here is that you'd bring a tank in order to fend off these like 4. You basically have like 2 archers, Lilith, and a couple other knights here. Just make sure you have a tank to hold these off. You might want to nuke them a little bit, and you want to have a unit with jump +2 so that you can actually jump up this edge here and attack these archers and attack King Elda. Shadow Lynx is really good here, particularly if you have her TMR. Her TMR does tend to land quite regularly on these units, so you are able to quite easily paralyze them. Glaciella and Miranda and Ildira all really shine. Miranda popping her limit break, Ildira being able to do AoE magic. I mean, it's just going to start shredding them really quickly. So if you have any type of water mage, if you have any type of water unit, it's going to be really powerful. I haven't tested Christmas Ramada on this map yet, but that's definitely going to be something I'm going to be doing this time around. Floor 30. You know, a lot of people, you know, say that floor 30 is hard. The only thing you really need to understand about floor 30 is you need to have sleep immunity, and you need to have some type of lightning attack is really important. And there are a lot of units with sleep immunity. That's going to be Yerma, holy shit, Venera, Ketone, Glaciella, Zombie Rairu, Frederica, Tyrell, Grace, Schutzelt, and Nibbles, actually. So a lot of these units are going to be really good. A lot of you who managed to pull Nibbles, who managed to pull Skull, this is actually going to be really nice for you. So the last time we had the Siren map, Skull and Nibbles were not in our combinations. And so we really had a hard time with some of the water units on these maps, because this map is basically, you know, a whole bunch of elementals, 2 healers, and then some other assorted melee and Siren. Well, they're all weak to lightning magic, but the only real lightning mage we had previously was Selir. So now we have more of a variety. We have Nibbles, who can AoE lower defense from a range. Should be significantly easier. I would say if you're maybe like a new player and your account is not fully fleshed out yet, the elementals are going to be the primary concern for you. I would plan on, if you are new and you haven't done this before, I would plan on kind of sending in a weaker composition first. So if you have a weaker team, send them in, take out the 4 elementals in the beginning, and then send in your strong team after that. That way your strong team doesn't have to compete against the elementals, and you can kind of push in against the main force. Finally, we made it to floor 30 EX. 30 EX is difficult for a lot of people, and floor 30 EX is kind of that advent of you need to have specific units to try and clear it relatively easily. Some specific units that are really good are going to be like Venera, Ayaka, Gilgamesh, like kind of like the golden standard, right, of units that people want you to have. Of course, death immunity is going to be really important here because the enemies do spam death. So not only does the primary skull enemy cast death all the time, Ziza basically can use doom techniques on you as well. So what I would recommend is basically going in with as many death immunity units as you have, bringing in as many full life units as you have, because if they die and you raise them, that's still fine. Targeting the time mages really fast is very important, because what the time mages will do is they will cast Quicken either on Ziza or they will cast it on the primary boss, and the next thing you know, the boss is going to be doing doom AoEs nonstop. The boss is going to be hitting you for high damage, or the time mages are going to cast Quicken on Ziza. Ziza is going to run in Steel Heart one of your units, because Ziza can also Steel Heart in this map against you. So your primary focus should be Ziza and the time mages right away. I would not worry about Etri. I would not worry about Ramada right away. Focus on Ziza and the time mages. Now, speed and flexibility of range is also important here, because what happens is the time mages are not all initially on the map. Basically what happens is when you kill like 1 or 2 time mages, 2 other time mages spawn, and it'll suddenly feel like you're competing against the time mages, right? So like you kill one, another spawns, and then it's almost like, oh my god, that time mage is going to take a turn and get quick enough before I can get to it. So you're kind of playing a race. So before you kill the first time mage, make sure you are ready to the point where you can kind of collapse in and kill the other ones that spawn. Venera with Vow of Love is surprisingly good on this map because she can tank the primary boss while also dealing damage. And also, this map is a blitz. Do not try and draw this map out. This map is designed to where, you know, your units are going to be spread thin. You're going to be targeting mages. You're going to be targeting time mages, healers. It's going to be one of those things that you just need to go in there and bust it out. Some other things that we didn't have when this first came out, we have a lot of calculator units with access to holy spells now. We also have the Winter Holiday VC ability for either Little Leela or for Ildira. We have units like Rosa, who's really powerful on this map. We also have Sakura. So a lot of the things on this map are going to be significantly weaker, I think, now, because a lot of them are dark units with weakness to light. So yeah, that's kind of everything I have for you guys right now for floors 1 through 30 EX. We will be doing another video tomorrow morning, which will be going over floors 31 through 40, so I hope you guys are ready. If you do want a copy of this, make sure you check down below in the description. I will have a link to Imgur images of every single slide for you guys. And as always, if you do want to support me, make sure you use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins, or you can go to my offer page at dig.gs/offer. As always, everyone, have a great rest of your day.